Welcome back to Shelley Cashman's series, Microsoft Excel 2010 Complete video tutorial. In this video, we are covering the next part of Chapter 2, which will be applying a theme to a workbook, applying a date format to a range or cell, adding conditional formatting to a cell, and changing column width and row height. So we're going to start with applying a theme to our workbook. If you haven't saved your workbook at this point, now would be a good time before we start changing things. Okay, so in order to change the theme of this workbook, we're going to go to the Page Layout tab. So you might have started on the Home tab, which is here, and next we want to go to the Page Layout and go over here to Themes. So once we click that, we can scroll through the themes, and as you can see, immediately it will give us a preview of what the theme will look like. So for this case, as on page EX94, we are going to use the Trek theme. So I'm going to click on that, and now you can see the theme of my workbook has changed. It's mostly a font-based theme, but it will also give you some color palettes up here that we can change. Okay, so the next section, we want to start making this workbook a little bit more friendly to the eyes. So as you remember from the first few videos, we were able to merge some of these cells and create a proper title. So let's start there. We're going to select all of these and go back to the Home tab, and this right here, merge and center. I'm going to do the same for the bi-weekly report, merge and center. And now we're going to start changing the appearance a little bit more. So I'm going to go through this really quickly. It's covered on EX96 to EX98, but I'm not going to explain too much in detail. I'm just going to show you what I'm doing here. So I'm going to increase the font size a little bit. I'm going to make it bold. Clicking there. Cell styles here. You can change it if you like. I think it's good as it is. Maybe I can fill in the background. So I'm going to choose this color right there. That works for me. I can also change the border. So this will allow you to use different borders. We're using the thick box border there. So now you can see there's a thick black line around there. Okay, I'm going to now move on. Change this heading. Cell style, we're going to use heading 3. These are preset cell styles, and the rest of the stuff here you can start using on your own. Let's make these bold. And again, total cell style right there. Total. So that's starting to look a little bit better. Okay, now moving on, we're on page EX98, 99. We're going to apply a date format to a range or cell. So as you remember before, we were discussing how as we entered these dates, even though the years were in 2-digit format, it automatically changed to 4-digit years. And so maybe we want to change that back. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this range, and right now there's some date presets right there, but we want to change it a little bit more specifically. So if we go down here, that funny little button there, it's going to pop up this formatting window, and we're going to go to date, and then we can select the type of date we want. And so the one I want looks like this right there. So month, day, and year in 2 digits. I'm going to click OK, and that will change our format right there. Okay, the next thing we want to do is, if you haven't done it already like I did earlier in this chapter, you can change this to a 2-decimal format, or however you want it to look. So in our case, we might want to apply more of an accounting look to what we have going here. So since we're working in money, let's change this money area to have some dollar signs, etc. So right now our decimal places are kind of all over the place. So let's reduce that to 2 decimal places right there. And we can also add a comma for the thousands place, and if we like, just put a dollar symbol right in front. So that's going to show us money. So let's say we don't want the dollar sign to show up for all of these. So if we look at page EX101, it also looks the same. They just have it for that first line. And so what we can do, if we don't want those to appear, we can go back and select symbol none for those ones in case we've overdone it there. So now we have the dollar sign in the first row and our total line for those things that are money. This one, of course, is hours, so we don't want that to be there. Okay, the next thing we want to do, we want to change these averages and high maximums and minimums. So again, here we want to change the decimal place to 2 for these ones as well. Decimal place to 2 places, and let's add the comma style and our dollar symbols. Okay, so for the percent sign, the tax percent, we want to change this again, right? Remember, it's in a decimal format right now, but we want to change that to a percent. So what we can do, we can use percent style. Just click that, percent. But if we want the 2 decimal places to show up, again, we can add our decimal places like so. Okay, so now the format is looking pretty good, and we want to try some conditional formatting. So conditional formatting, as on page EX104, means that it will apply a format based on some sort of condition. So in our case, we're going to be looking at the hours worked. So we want to apply a certain format depending on what content is entered in here. So let's say we want to look for everyone who's worked over 70 hours. And that would be, let's roughly say, it's a 35-hour work week, so 2 weeks are bi-weekly payroll. 70 would be the standard. Anyone working above that, we want to find out who that is. So maybe we're saying, hey, let's find out who these guys are working too hard, making the rest of us look bad. Or maybe, who knows, they're working really hard, they deserve something else. So we're going to have Microsoft Excel highlight these people automatically. So by default, there are some preset rules for conditional formatting up here, but we're going to go ahead and create a new rule from scratch. So I've selected these hours, and then we're going to go to new rule, and at the top here it tells you the kind of rule. So what we're doing is creating an if then statement. So if and only if these cells have a certain value, then apply this formatting. So for our case, we're going to say format the cells that only contain this rule, and our rule is going to be the cell value is greater than 70. So that's greater than 70 hours. So if the cell contains a cell value that's greater than 70 hours, then format by adding this brown color right there. So OK, and click OK. So there we have it. We can see this person worked 80 hours, 78, 79, 80, and those are all over 70, and that automatically highlights based on the conditions. So you can use that again like the preset mode, or create your new rules depending on what you want to do. Okay, finally in this video we're going to change the column widths and row heights. So we're looking at here page EX108, change column width and row height. So I'm going to go back and we're going to start with the column width. As you can see right here, these columns are not really working out for us. So what we can do is let's highlight all three of them. So on page EX108 it says drag through columns headings A, B, and C. Okay, and so now what we want to do is we want to move the mouse right here. And what we can do is if we double click, it's going to automatically adjust these three columns to the optimized width. So as you can see, this one grew a bit bigger, so just fitting the content. This one shrank a little bit, and so these work out properly. Okay, so you can also manually adjust the width, right? If you put your cursor between the two columns, you can adjust the width, as you can see right there. Okay, so you might also notice if you adjust the column a little bit too small and the number doesn't fit, it's going to show up as number symbols and not the proper number. So what you'll have to do is manually adjust that until it displays the proper number. So here we can also adjust the row height in the same way. So if we double click, it will adjust for us to the optimal height. And then of course we can also manually adjust if we want a little bit more space between the total and these calculations. Okay, again, don't forget to save. So we're going to click our save button and we are done.